So we're going to go ahead and start, not with focus, but we're going to start in collaborative learning. And this phase is all about students working together. They're co-constructing meaning, they're testing ideas, they're deepening their understanding. And when students start talking through the process, it allows them to surface misconceptions, either for themselves or for the teacher. It allows them to say, I thought I knew this, but here's where I'm still struggling. So sometimes when we do that, when we skip the collaboration, teachers engage with students and students are like, okay, yeah, this makes sense when Miss Fry is doing it with me. But then when I go to do it by myself, it doesn't seem to make as much sense. So this piece is absolutely critical and serves a unique purpose. Now, we do have a book, as you saw in some of the opening slides, and here were some of the strategies that we've listed. Allowing collaborative annotations for students to make sense of a text together. Jigsaws, where we're moving from home groups to expert groups to home groups to expert groups, where we're all getting the chance to have that diversity of voice and perspective, and ultimately seeing, how does this piece fit in with the other pieces that I read? Peer assessment, right? Peer assessment relies on students having a strong mental model for what it looks like to be successful. And we'll see in focused instruction where that starts taking place. But we want students to be able to say, I'm looking at the success criteria and I'm noticing you're doing this really well. The strategy that we're going to spotlight, though, for this particular webinar is the 5-word summary. So this is just a snapshot of what it looks like in the book. So all of the strategies then follow. Here is an explanation. Why is this impactful? How does this fit into the gradual release of responsibility? How would I then check for understanding with student? There's a lot of variations of things out there. We call those out. Let's look at some related strategies and use a step by step. And this really stemmed from several conversations that we had out in the world where people were saying, okay, we know that there are high leverage strategies, but how do we know how to do them? So that's what every strategy looks like. But when we think about 5-word summary, particularly for collaboration, we engage in a collaborative task, okay, where students, as they are reading, they're identifying the 5 most significant words independently. And then they're going to work with partners and then with groups of 4 to start negotiating, well, what are the most significant words and why? To come up with a master list of 5 words, then to create a summary based on those 5 words. So you have a lot of student talk, negotiating, meaning making, and we love this strategy. We use it a lot in a lot of our professional learning because it helps us avoid groupthink. So even if Nancy has 5 words and Sarah has a completely different 5 words and I have some that overlap with both, it allows us to negotiate, get multiple touch points with the language of the text to form a deeper understanding. Okay, so here's again what that might look like. We're going from independent work to collaborative work back to independent work. So we see a couple different phases represented here. And then again, as a teacher, what am I looking and listening for? Well, as I'm looking at those 5 words, I want to see how students independently started making sense of the text based on their 5 words. Then I want to see how their thinking starts to change as they negotiate meaning with their partner and ultimately their groups. And then ultimately, is that sentence that or the summary that they form, does it match the text?